Stress. It's something that we all experience, and we often attribute it to those external threats and the feeling where we lack a sense of control. But sometimes we feel stressed about our stress. Now, I bet you all face this every day in your work with increased workload, staffing shortages, supply chain issues, to name a few. And I bet that pre-COVID, you dreamed of the possibility of working from home. Today, you realize that opportunity isn't as fabulous as you once thought it would be. And now, your work life is bleeding into your personal life, and you're left wondering, what's the point of going on a vacation when I'm still working? Well, I'm going to tell you the story of two swimmers. It was the Summer Olympics of 2008, and Michael Phelps entered the 200-meter butterfly final. He's 25 meters into the race when suddenly his goggles fill up with water, rendering him completely blind. Now, if you're doing the math, he's still got 175 meters to go. Blind. So, what happened? Well, I can tell you what didn't happen. Michael didn't panic. He was prepared. You see, he trained with his coach for all kinds of scenarios, and he memorized the exact number of strokes he would need to take to reach the end of his lane. And so Michael finished that race, but he didn't just finish. He finished in first place. Now, fast forward, it's 2021, and Simone Manuel qualifies for the Tokyo Olympics, but the stress gets to her, and she drops out. In sports speak, they call this overtraining, but what they're really talking about is burnout. So what is burnout? It's chronic stress. As you can see, both of our swimmers, as Olympic athletes, face an incredible amount of stress. But one learned to embrace it, and the other didn't. As an Olympic athlete, you can expect such incredible levels of stress, but just because you expect it doesn't mean you know what to do with it. So what allowed Michael Phelps to have such an incredible superpower? Well, he attributes it to his mental game. Now, as far as I know, none of you here are Olympic athletes, but you have your own stressors. So my goal is to help you figure out how you can be more like Michael Phelps than like Simone Manuel, so that you can walk away from our time together here with a fresh new perspective on stress, and 3 proven strategies on how to use it to your advantage. Let me give you an example. There was a man named Anthony. He was a husband, a father of 3, and the founder of a construction company. Now, Monday through Fridays, you could probably find Anthony in back-to-back meetings, looking at his desk through contracts and blueprints, and working really long hours. Now, most of us in that situation would be really looking forward to the weekends, but the weekends for Anthony didn't offer much of a reprieve. That's because if it was a Saturday morning, you could probably find Anthony working from his kitchen island. And then Sunday evenings would come around and his family would be sitting around the television watching the game, and there was Anthony checking his emails. He was there, but not there. And all of the stress was starting to catch up with him. So he decided he was going to do something to just let off some steam, and he signed up for some tennis lessons. In the beginning, his coach taught him all of the fundamentals. He learned how to do a forehand and a backhand, all the different moves, so that they can start actually playing a game. But once they started playing, the fear stepped in. And Coach Sarah saw the deer in the headlights, so she pulled him aside and she said, "Anthony, tennis is a game of failure. Build a drill around that." Now, this completely confused Anthony. Failure, coach? Isn't the point to win? Winning is important, Anthony, but it's not the only goal. You see, every time you step foot on this court, you're going to face failure with the shots that you miss, the points that you didn't get, and the mistakes that you make. It's inevitable. The key to becoming a better player isn't to avoid failure, it's learning from it. Now, this took Anthony by surprise, right? Because he'd always thought of failure as something to be ashamed of, a sign that he wasn't good enough. But what Coach Sarah was suggesting was something different, a radical shift in perspective. Your drill needs to be designed so that it puts you in situations where failure is likely. I want you to embrace it and face it head on. And so with some determination and a little bit of anxiety, Anthony decided to create such a drill for himself where he was going to focus specifically on the shots that he was less good at and really just practice those again and again. The most challenging situations that he found himself in when he was playing a game. And as he started to drill this, he missed a bunch of shots, and the ball often landed further from the intended target than he wanted it to. But Anthony wasn't disheartened. Instead, he was looking to understand what went wrong. And you could often find him after a shot saying to himself, oh, right, low to high. Or saying, oh, it went in that corner because I was a little late. He started to analyze what was really happening. Now, over the course of several months, he started to really enjoy embracing this idea of failure, and he realized that tennis was indeed a game of failure, but it was also a game of growth. And he started to wonder, what if the same principles that have allowed me to improve on the tennis court can also help me on the job? And so the next time he was sitting at his desk, he found himself amongst a sea of paperwork. And he asked himself, what is the root cause of this perpetual backlog? And he realized it was his fear disguised as perfectionism. Now, as a strategy, perfectionism seemed good on paper, but really did nothing to get the job done. And so he started to apply some of the same things he learned on the tennis court. And to his astonishment, it worked, as evidenced by the dwindling pile of paperwork on his desk. Anthony realized that there were going to be imperfect moments, and that was perfectly okay. It's just that this way, he was able to build up his resilience, focus on problem solving, and by focusing on the potential failure, he knew that he was getting one step closer to getting it right, or at the very least, getting the job done. Now, we often can see threats in our environment, and we can get stuck feeling stressed out about them. But we all have this opportunity to turn those threats into something more positive, something that we can embrace.
So this conversation today is not only something that I could apply to myself, right, my team, but my clients were constantly talking about what keeps us up at night and what stresses us out. And so I thought today's conversation and the way that Dr. Grossman presented everything was really fantastic. It was extremely easy to understand what stress is, how it impacts our daily lives, but the worksheet and being able to understand and self-reflect inter, and situational stress and come in real time with solutions was fantastic. I think that in today's day and age, it's extremely important to be emotionally intelligent and have self-awareness. And if it's something that you intrinsically see yourself struggling with, this was a really great session for that, because it allows you to see your stress today and perhaps what impact you have, what influence you have situationally as well and others, and the changes you can personally make.
What I took away from the session today is that, first of all, as HR folks or anybody that works in the industry where you have to service anyone, sometimes you put yourself last. And it's important to take the time to be able to expose yourself to the expertise and knowledge that Dr. Grossman affords us. So it was extremely valuable in the sense that you did a lot of introspection and you walk away with solutions that you can apply to your day-to-day. That way you can service yourself and you can service others at a greater scale.